off. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and hello, welcome to G3. Today is February 5th, 2016. This is episode number 68. I almost jumped into 69. Oh. Anyway, wow, it just threw me off there. I got a visual and that was it.
If you keep going on, it gets worse.
It does, huh? Okay. Well, let me introduce my lovely co-host today. Hello, Francine Hardaway, Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Francine.
Hello, everybody.
And Mary Hodder, feeling a little bit better, maybe, in Mountain View, California.
Much better today.
Oh, good. You're back with the living.
Yes. I had the flu that was so intense that when I drank water, it tasted too strong.
Oh,
wow.
Mary, you should have called me. I would have brought you chicken soup or something.
I couldn't even have had chicken soup.
Yeah, I guess that's for a cold, not for a flu anyway. And back with us after her, lovely rest in Mexico. Not much of a rest, right?
Not much of a rest at all.
But Mexico, it sounds restful to us. Is Rebecca Woodcock back in San Francisco, California. Hi, Rebecca.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Are you downtown where all the football shenanigans are going on right now?
More or less, yeah. I'm in the 500 Startups office, and it's right next door to where all of the Moscone Center things are going on. So it's really crowded on the streets right now, full of people, and I don't know where they're going or what they're doing. But it's something Super Bowl related, and I imagine it's at the Moscone Center.
So my clients in San Francisco aren't even going to work. They're not even, they're all working out of their homes. Yeah. They said it's just so awful, and Super Bowl City is so lame, and San Franciscans care so little about the Super Bowl, which is, of course, 40 miles away anyway.
Well, we have talked about this before, that this is not, it's the techies seem to be not so much sports people. Maybe it's because the time that it takes to be a real sports person, you have to put time into it, right?
Yeah, it's not like wearing the same clothes every day, like Mark Zuckerberg, and lining up your hoodies and lining up. Did you see that, Mark Zuckerberg's picture of his closet when he came back from paternity leave?
Oh, no.
Where it's completely full of the same T-shirt, the same hoodie, and the same jeans. And that's because he does not want to spend time during the day deciding what to wear.
Yeah, but I've got something else for him. A washing machine. All you need is just a couple of things, and then just wash them.
Really? If you're a billionaire, you're going to wash?
Well, he doesn't have to wash.
Well, I know, but
he just doesn't need. If you don't change,
he doesn't have time to decide what to wear.
If you don't change the uniform, you only need a couple of those things. Is my point, and then you wash them. Okay, enough.
You buried my point.
So, I have to say on this point of the Super Bowl, we're not too excited here in Mountain View. So, we're the end of the light rail on this side of the bay. There's the other side. It goes to the Milpitas side. But basically, they're closing the stations between Mountain View and the stadium. So they're trying to push everyone to either take Caltrain here, get off, get on the light rail, which it's the same stop, and you just change to a different train line, and then go over to the stadium. It lets you off right in front. If you drive to the stadium, it's over a mile to the closest parking, and it's $50 during normal games. I don't know what it will be on Sunday.
Oh my God.
Basically, they're closing all the downtown Mountain View streets. There's a whole bunch, there's a map online. They're closing Central Expressway. And so that's going to push a lot more traffic, to El Camino Real and 101. And I have to say, I decided to go out and do my grocery shopping because after being sick, we didn't have a lot of food in the house. I couldn't even eat anything anyway, so it didn't matter. But I decided to go and do a little shopping for the weekend just so we wouldn't really have to go out. And it is pandemonium in all the parking lots. I think everyone's stocking up so that they don't have to go out expecting this deluge of people. But basically our neighborhood here in Mountain View is the parking lot for the Super Bowl because they didn't make enough parking over there, and this is where the light rail comes.
Oh.
And so what we're expecting is beyond the street closures, it'll push back into this neighborhood. And, you know, honestly, building a stadium like that in a bunch of residential little teeny neighborhoods is completely ridiculous. This is so, and nobody wants it. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to go. I mean, it is just, and it's just a mess. And we're on top of that having to pay, you know, 200 grand for that stadium just to manage their parking on an annual basis. It's ridiculous.
So the Super Bowl, there's usually, I know this because Arizona always bids on the Super Bowl because people in Arizona want it because supposedly it has huge economic impact. Okay, there's usually a Super Bowl committee, and it's usually made up of local people and businesses who actually want it. And that's how the Super Bowl ends up coming to your town. Who the hell in San Francisco or Santa Clara or whatever
It's Santa Clara.
decided that they wanted the Super Bowl?
The people who did the stadium are basically, you know, it's a bunch of business people. In fact, it cost $1 billion to make that stadium, and they had it all paid for before the first game, which was August or maybe late July. It was like July 31 or something, a year and a half ago.
Wait, all paid for by bonds or all paid for?
All paid for cash, either advance selling seat licenses or sponsorships or money that they'd raised in some form or another, but it was not loans. Everything was paid off. But the little thing that they forgot was all those externalized costs to all the surrounding communities. We're all stuck. We just all get the dregs of that. We get nothing. And of course, everyone's driving down here from San Francisco and all the other stuff. I mean, this is so not Silicon Valley.
That
at
is
all.
fucked.
It's ridiculous.
Excuse me. That's terrible.
It's really bad.
It's a lot of swearing on the Gilmore Gang just recently, so I can see that it's going to happen on this show. Well, you know what? It's going to be over. The Super Bowl's going to be over. The stadium remains. I would a little bit curious. I mean, Candlestick was in an interesting spot. Everyone always complained that it was so cold, but it was kind of tucked away in this area of San Francisco that it kind of almost didn't impact on you so much. And that almost seemed ideal to me, you know, like get it close to the urban area, but don't like impact, the traffic incredibly or the parking or all this. It seems to me they should have just rebuilt it there.
Guys want it to be nearer to the center of something because they want to cause all that, I don't know what you want to call it, redevelopment, gentrification,
of
or
the
whatever.
South Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Santa Clara must have thought that it was going to get something. I don't know anything about it.
Santa Clara does get stuff. Santa Clara gets a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's all the other little towns. So it's right on the edge of a neighborhood of San Jose. They don't get anything. The light rail and the stuff we have to do, we have to regulate the parking every time there's a game. And it's not just a football game. It's soccer games. It's demonstration, sporting events. It's just anything that they decide to do. And of course, they're out sell to get the stadium used. So every time we have to move our farmers market, which costs the market $25,000. We have the second largest market in the state. Costs them 25 grand in annual marketing costs. Plus, every time it moves, they have a several $1,000 cost. And so it's in the wrong place. And then there's no parking there. There's parking where it is normally at the Caltrain and light rail station. I mean, it's just to plop this into the middle of a bunch of little residential neighborhoods is ridiculous. And they didn't say, oh, yeah, we're making billions. We'll pay for the externalized costs in the neighborhoods surrounding the stadium.
In Arizona, they make people do that. They make developers do that because Arizona has so much new development that they have processes and procedures where they've learned how to stick it to the developers.
Well, you'd think that they would at least have covered the parking problem.
The problem is Silicon Valley, full of libertarians, no one wants to do anything, including our city council, which is full of libertarians, who literally, when we talked about, I got up and spoke and said, the owners of the 49ers need to pay. We need to make this happen. And this, the 8 guys sitting there all kind of looked around like, what do you mean? They're just running a business. Isn't this just like the corner hot dog shop? I'm like, it's $1 billion stadium, guys. Like, let them pay for their parking. But no, they didn't want to do anything because they're a bunch of libertarians,
Right.
But
Free
it's
for
very
all.
interesting
Free
because
for all. Wild,
there are
wild
people who feel this
west.
way about the tech community also.
Yeah,
there are a lot of people who feel that
Yeah.
way about the tech community.
That's true.
In fact, Goldman Sachs, I don't know if you saw this, but a couple of days ago, Bloomberg had an article that quoted Goldman Sachs as saying that if corporate profits didn't go down or wages go up, and if things stayed the same as they are now, they would have to be questioning the long-term efficacy of capitalism. I mean, that's really stunning.
Almost sounded like a perfect
soundbite
soundbite for Bernie Sanders.
Well, yeah, but not only, I mean, it's even they have figured it out that if the poor keep getting poorer, and the rich get richer, no one's going to be able to buy the products that people make.
Right. You can't sell iPhones to people who don't have some money.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
also, there was a stat yesterday that came up in an article about Bernie Sanders that I think it was Pew, but I'd have to go back and grab the link. 54% of Americans are pro the redistribution of wealth from the 1% to the rest of the people in the country.
Oh, yes, it was Pew.
Amazing.
It was Pew.
It was Pew. Yeah, like that. They are a reputable research place. I mean, that is astonishing.
People are ready for socialism.
They're ready for socialism. My mother,
they are socialists.
a conservative New England Republican who never voted for anybody but Republicans until mid-Reagan, like 84. And then she was like, wait, this doesn't work financially. But, she's very conservative. And on Christmas Day, she looked around the table and she said, I think it's time for us to go socialist. And everyone was like, what? Are you kidding? I mean, like, this is unbelievable. And we're sitting there and, my parents in their little apartment with the Coit Tower through the giant window, they're in their little conservative haven, right? And there they are. And they're like, it's time. This is ridiculous. Like, we can't, this is unsustainable.
Well,
I
thought
just
it was
flabbergasted.
It was amusing on the Gilmore Gang because Robert was talking about how virtual reality and augmented reality were going to change our worlds, and how we're all going to be, buying these headsets and wearing these things on our faces. And the real question is, who is going to be able to afford to buy these things? Even if we wanted to participate in that kind of alternative reality. And I'm sure a lot of people will once we figure out what the use cases are. Yeah, well, right. But
I don't buy it. I'm not going to buy it.
Assuming that you wanted to participate in it, are you going to shell out $599 for an Oculus Rift or take your kid to the dentist?
Well, the one thing is, I actually think cynically, if you want to connect Goldman and socialism and 54% to this, is if your goal is to maintain that kind of a system, you got to warehouse some people. Well, how do you warehouse them? You stick a thing on their head and you just let them zone out forever. And if that's your goal, okay,
it's the
I can see it.
Extreme form of let them eat cake.
Or you could just rob them of any dollars for education and just let everybody get stupid. Maybe that's already happened. Oops.
Well, that
basically it's like the movie The Matrix.
But I'm just saying, like, So the thing about Oculus Rift that's really interesting to me is the cover is actually this incredibly cheap. It couldn't have cost more than $10 or $15 to make. I don't mean the research to get the buttons to work, but I mean just the basic design. It's just this big plastic thing with some foam, and it fits over your head, and you put your own phone in it, right? And that phone gets super hot because it's processing like crazy for 20 minutes until it, your $1,000 Samsung phone the battery dies after 20 minutes. Your eyes hurt so badly that for 2 hours you've got a bad headache, but whatever. Like,
isn't that especially more true for women?
It supposedly is. Now I have to say
there's a hormonal component to that. Research shows. Yeah.
I don't know because I tried on all those headsets at CES and I never got sick and I never got a headache.
But did you do it straight? Like I watched program after program till the battery died from beginning to end of the battery.
I didn't do that.
So I watched the 40th anniversary of the SNL thing. I watched there was some demos of, VR companies that are, or AR companies that are, trying to do stuff, and they have these little 2-minute things. So I watched a string of those. I watched some Netflix. I tried out a bunch of the different programming options that are available.
Did you see any compelling programming? That was my problem.
There was nothing compelling, but my point is that if you watch straight through, now it is really cool. Like in the Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary special, if you look straight down with your camera, you see through to the floor. It's very, it's literally a sphere of 360 degree, all spherical kind of vision, and you can turn in any direction.
So you're getting the feeling of being there. Rebecca, have you experienced any of the headsets? Have you played around with this? And what are your thoughts about it?
I have, and actually I'm in the camp where it's not really going to bring a lot of value to most people's lives. It may have some specific applications.
You mean ever, or just in the near term while it's being developed? And
look, there is definitely a content issue, but I'm not convinced that there's going to be enough for the everyday person. I think the content really, if you're talking about porn, VR is basically a porn play.
Wait, are we talking about porn?
I mean, if you want to talk about
right now it's a porn play.
Yeah, well, I think
in games.
Even in games, look, I mean, if you look at a high, rich fidelity game right now, the graphics cards, the processing power, the computing power needed to do that even now is really, really high. Can you imagine trying to do that for virtual reality games? It's going to be multiplied. It's going to be really hard to get any mass scale. It's going to be very niche. And then you layer on the content issue. Okay, maybe it's going to be developed and maybe there will be a few awesome experiences. So let's see that being a mass play. The other thing I think...
Aren't these headsets tethered also right now? I mean...
No, the Oculus was disconnected. Basically, I popped in a Samsung phone. There's a flap that comes over and it connects the buttons so that it can control it. This beautiful little, very extravagant item, which, was delivered by Google as part of the swag pack for a recent conference 2 weeks ago on IoT. You pop your phone right in here, right? And then my phone's in the other room. It's actually on the music player, which is a mass market play. And then you play it like this, right? You're basically just putting your face in like this. But I think.
But the Oculus Rift is not the one that you use with the phone. The Oculus Rift is the one you need a computer for. At least the demo
I had a version of Oculus. There's a version that goes with a computer, and apparently I was given an Oculus that just you pop a phone into it and you run on the phone batteries.
And a PC too, right?
You don't need a PC. They all ran through Wi-Fi on the phone, downloading an app.
I don't see it replacing a computer. I don't see it replacing other things. I mean, I think a lot of these claims are grossly exaggerated and there's a lot of hope. But honestly, being in technology forecasting for many years in my past, technology actually doesn't get adopted as fast as people think. And in very, very rare cases, we've been talking about VR for 20 plus years now, and it's never realized the promise that people have always talked about.
Well, we've got an $800 million investment in what, Magic Leap?
Magic Leap.
For a technology that we're not going to see for five years.
10 years.
Minimum.
I think
10
we're
years.
10 years out because we have to
More
fix
like-
batteries, or we have to fix
Or
the
we have to
issue
do
of how
away
do you
with
tether
batteries.
to a cheap computer. You have to fix content, and you have to fix this issue of the blurriness and whether or not, I don't know, half the population feels sick after using it, right? So, I mean, the telling thing for me is in the Magic Leap statement, right? So they take their 800 million on top of the 600 they already have. Series C, and they haven't built anything yet that's out in public for people to really test.
Doesn't it remind you of Color? The app, remember the app Color?
It reminds me of pets.com.
Okay, this is what I'd like to...
But let me say the last thing. The telling piece in his statement is, we're not going to work on the hardware, we're just building software. And that's what all these AR and VR people are doing. They're skipping content and they're skipping the hardware. And that's where all the problems are. And then you have the ultimate question for me is, and who wants to sit around warehoused with a thing on my head? Like,
okay, well, you know, I'm gonna always bring up Star Trek, and in Star Trek: The Next Generation, Geordi had this very sort of sleek thing, but he still had this on his head all the time.
But it was glass.
But you know that's going to happen. But
okay, I happily wore Google Glass. I actually really loved it. I thought it was useful, and I got sort of shamed out of wearing it because nobody else was wearing it, and people thought I was spying on them. So there's a huge human component in this that people don't understand.
Maybe at the point where they become contact lenses and you don't know that you've got them, that's a different story. But let me ask you this. So Magic Leap says that the investment that they're getting right now is going to advance the timeline of development. And my question is, does money buy us time?
More engineers.
Yes.
It does.
If you don't spend it all.
Does it? I get that it buys us coding. I get that it buys us a certain development. But what about the time to use and refine and live with and understand and adopt? Does money really buy us time that way?
No, because social change only occurs at the pace that humans can do it, and that was my entire point. You know, it's always been my entire point. Is it social change? Well, it's definitely social change. I mean, I'm an early adopter, and I don't really see a use for all of these technologies yet. Rebecca's in tech forecasting; she doesn't see it yet. What if I were, for argument's sake, the person who mows my lawn or the person who cleans my house, who has a limited amount of disposable income and a bunch of kids and is budgeting for things that are really, that are really necessary to advance themselves or their kids? How exactly does this fit in for them?
Well,
I don't think that even if they could scrape together the $500 to do it, and I totally agree with you, Francine, about the cost and the cost needs to come down. At that point, for people who are working a lot of hours and then caring for kids or are kids themselves and probably need to go outside and play some of the time, or, that in other words, we all can't warehouse ourselves because for one reason or another, we got to be doing something else. Google Glass let you continue on with your life. This is a life stopper. And I just don't really see.
Stopper.
Wait, you mean AR is a life stopper?
Well, doing this, that's the end of anything else, right?
That's
like
the
I'm not going to do
between...
anything when that's going on.
But that's the difference between AR and VR. AR isn't a life stopper. And I fully believe that AR will happen and will happen sooner than VR. VR, because of Mary, because of what Mary said, VR won't happen because it is a life stopper. And until you get to the point where this is your life, rather than something that stopped your life. If you actually live in this world, and VR becomes as useful to you as, for argument's sake, a hearing aid or a pair of regular eyeglasses. Like, you need them in order to interact with the world, and they augment, I guess I'm back to augmented, they make the world easier to get around rather than separating you from the world. Then you
but
won't.
then you have to build those apps that make it easier to get around the world. And unfortunately, the kind of demonstrations we're seeing right now is like, oh, a monster just crashed through your living room while you're wearing your goggles. And it's like, okay, well, there's a novelty effect for that, right? Like, I did try that out once. But after that, I'm like, I don't want to have monsters in my world. I got to do my life. And I need help in my life.
Well,
but if you don't build those apps, then why is this valuable to me, and why would I spend the money?
I almost think that we're talking about a couple different things. I mean, on the one hand, I think maybe all of us would love to be able to walk into a room where there's an event or a party and run into people that we've met before and we cannot remember their names, and the little bubble pops up and says, oh, this is so-and-so, and you met them here and 2 years ago. And I would love that. I would love to be able to walk down a street and have a map help me out with stores that are nearby, or a bathroom, or whatever it is. I think we would love that. That's augmented reality, right?
All of that was in Google Glass, and they turned it off because people were pissed at it, and they thought it was an invasion of their privacy. That was possible to build in Google Glass, and they didn't allow it to be built.
Well, I don't think that.
Not to mention
that it hadn't been built, and the use case for it. I mean, once people experience the usefulness of something, then they're going to accept it a little more. At the point with Google Glass, it was just sort of thrown at everyone, and you'd walk into a bar and people were about to get into a bar fight because they thought they were being spied on, they were being recorded, there was video being taken. Hey, I don't want to you to show me with this person who's next to me. I've got a wife at home.
But turn-by-turn directions were also in Google Glass. And it's interesting because
and that may have been the useful part of it. And with, there's a little bit of augmented reality with the Apple Watch. We get people quite like the taptic or haptic. Is it haptic or taptic?
Well,
the sensation, that you get. You might get some directions for while you're driving, and you feel a different sensation for turn right or turn left. Things like that. Great, perfect. But if we're dealing in monsters and avoiding Godzilla, that's not getting us anywhere. And that's part of it. But the other part of it is that you brought up is how much of your life it's going to take over. And right now, when you deal with a kid, or maybe anybody under 25, and I'm talking and they're doing this, they're already gone.
You know what? I was in a meeting yesterday with a guy that I used to work with at Intel. He was one of the co-inventors of USB. He's a really bright guy and a really good old friend of mine. He's now the head of the MEMS and Sensors Industry Association. We sat there having lunch together, two people of a certain age, both of us looking at our phones and texting. Mm-hmm. Neither one of us there's a change has already happened in social behavior. So we know it's possible, and it's not only people who are 25, because he's not 25 and I'm not 25.
Francine, you're bringing up a point actually that I wanted to explore a little bit. From what I understand, I listened to Robert. Robert Scoble was just on the Gilmore Gaming. Very exuberant about what's coming in VR and AR both.
And he basically said we're all dinosaurs if we don't accept it.
Right. But from what I understand, at least he sort of described it, because Steve was saying, I don't want to see like 10 different screens and then I'm interacting with them. And basically Robert said that's what it is. You've got all these choices sort of arrayed around you, and you can interact with these choices through your body, through your hands, through motion. You can grab things, do things. Okay.
I want the neurologist. So people will go crazy.
So let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you something. Our world right now, to me, is very silent and almost motionless. When people are looking at their phones, they're doing this. We're texting. It's very private. Now, all of a sudden, I think Robert's talking about a different kind of paradigm where we're going to be out loud talking, commands and making gestures. That's a very different kind of reality than this quiet sort of poking at a device.
I don't think people are going to do that.
You don't think people are going to do that?
In certain areas, yes. Like in China, where actually typing on a keyboard is really, really complicated, where stickers are replacing conversation. They may do more dictation just so that they don't have to do typing, right?
I hadn't thought about that.
Perhaps, but we live in such a world where there's so much social pressure and our image and especially our youth, right? And that's another reason why I don't think they're going to be doing this, right? Because they can't be taken
because it doesn't look cool
with their friends or no, exactly. It doesn't look cool and it doesn't showcase them on media. Also, I mean, if you think about what people do, oftentimes
is take selfies.
It's selfies, it's little quick communications, it's stuff that actually highlights and enhances their social lives, even if it's not, person-to-person social life, which, I think actually they do still care about quite a bit. But that takes away all of it, even the social, online, the digital. I mean, you're
Once
not really
again, I'm going to ask for the neurologist.
You, right? Huh?
I want a neurologist on the show because I want to know how all of this affects our brains and how long it takes the human brain to adapt to new forms of reality and new interfaces.
I'm not sure people, I mean, yes, that would be interesting. But my argument is that people don't care even enough to go that far with these kinds of things. Like, there's nothing really compelling to make me want to put that thing on my face.
Well, okay, but let's say that there was something really compelling. Are we going to be walking around with things, devices on our, basically some sort of helmet, some sort of
but we didn't used to have computers, and we didn't used to have phones, and we have all of those, and we've gotten used to them. What changes have to happen in the brain to accept different interfaces with reality? This is a huge question.
It's not just the changes in the brain, it's the value that thing brings to our life. I don't really see the value. That's the difference. There has to be some sort of
but doesn't the technology
makes my life simpler, easier, more entertaining, something.
Which comes first, though? I mean, sometimes it's the technology that comes first, and we build the technology out, and then we find use cases for it. And sometimes we're either problem solving or we're problem finding, and then solving it.
Adoption of the technology never comes first. Adoption of the technology comes when somebody figures out a reason to adopt it.
But there has to be a use case for it.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what, exactly. There has to be a problem to be solved or something that it's adding value to your life first. You don't just create a technology and say, well, everybody's going to want it. That's how products fail.
And you don't think that that's what's happening right now in VR and AR, that they're just creating the technology and then they'll figure out the use case afterwards?
That is kind of what I'm thinking they're doing right now.
That's what's happening.
But you're saying that this never happens. You're saying that this doesn't happen this way and it's happening this way.
No. I'm saying that
Am I confused?
It does happen. The technologies, but they're never adopted. The adoption doesn't happen without the application. you can have technology, but if it doesn't have application, why would anyone adopt it?
Exactly.
I mean, it's even true of the self-driving cars. There'll be a slow adoption curve until people decide they don't want to drive. Right now, the generation of people that are driving now still want to drive and don't trust self-driving cars. And I'm sure they're safer, but I'm absolutely sure that most people will not give up their driving so fast. Now, people who've never driven, that's a whole different story.
Mary, what's happening when we've got the kind of dollars that are being invested in something that's 5 to 10 years out? When we've got Silicon Valley, and when I'm reading about the Magic Leap investment, we've got lots of investors in this, and big dollars. What does that do to everything else that's not AR, VR?
Well,
You know,
I mean,
does it create some sort of vacuum?
And say that there's like a finite amount of investment money, right? So if everybody climbs into, particular fad of investing, then presumably there would not be attention. I mean, there's only so much time that each investor can spend on a board, right? So the rule is usually like 7 to 8 boards for a venture capitalist. So there's that side of things, right? There's all this money being put in. Now, 800 million isn't going to result in, a dozen board seats. So it's not like, you're taking up that many guys' time with it. But, my concern is more this. So we're going down this path right now that I think is very similar to what we did in 2000. But the difference is that in 2000, we did it with companies going public and their stock was actually worthless because they either didn't have a product or their product was ridiculous or they lost money on every sale or whatever that was. Now the version is that we blow up the valuation, we make it a gigantic gargantuan unicorn like Magic Leap, without a product, or the product loses money on every sale, which many of the online shopping sites do. Guilt company just got bought a week or two ago, and they got bought for less than the amount of the investment that had been put into them. I mean, there's all these different areas that were once hot and now aren't, and now AR and VR are hot. So okay, we're pouring tons of money into them. The kind of general tech whatever scene. I think that to me, this is really indicative of the coming crash, because I think that there's all this overvalued stuff, and there are things that we can't know in this deal or other deals, but a lot of investors have clauses where if stuff isn't working, they can claw back the money. So while they may have committed 800 million, they probably actually gave them like 80 million, and then they have to take the rest over the remaining 12 or 18 months, and then they're supposed to do something with that. You don't put that kind of money into something without expecting something.
But do something that's going to take 5 to 10 years.
Well, yeah.
So when do we see it?
But Tina, that's what venture capital is actually for. Venture capital was actually for companies that had long-term horizons, like, semiconductor companies, for argument's sake, where you had to build the fab and design the chip, and you didn't have a product for 5 to 10 years. So the long horizon doesn't bother me. What does bother me is how everybody goes into the same area. And the last time I saw that happen, was alternative energy. Everybody was absolutely sure that alternative energy would take over and we'd all be on solar, and we had to get oil independent
and
all the rest of that shit. Yes. And here's the deal.
And we're so
oil prices have dropped. Everyone
and now no one gives a shit, and they're buying SUVs again.
Everybody in green, everybody in green energy lost their shirt. So now, if you wanted to do alternative energy, you can't get money for it. And that's what happens. It all goes, all of this AR, VR money that whips into the field now, it loses its money. I guarantee.
But all this AR and VR and self-driving cars stuff is all this sexy.
It's not the same.
It's all the sexy stuff, right?
But it's not the same.
And if you're not that, it seems like you know,
self-driving cars are not like AR and VR, because self-driving cars are actually rolling out slowly, feature by feature, and there actually is a use case. So that it's not the same as AR
because
and
the
VR.
cars actually exist. When we know
exactly.
we already use cars, it's just a different way to
every 30 minutes all day
direct
long
them.
Outside my house, the Google self-driving car drives by. I mean, they're actually, they've got 1.2 million test hours in the Google self-driving car, and then we have Uber and other, GM is working on a project. I mean, there's just, there's
self-driving cars
real.
Are held up by government. All the governments have to pass laws, and also by roads, which have to get smarter, and to some degree by social change. People, have to say, I want a self-driving car, which, by the way, I see a use case for that immediately, because I hate to drive. And I live in a county that's 9,200 square miles, and I drive my ass off.
Yeah.
So what if you actually didn't own the car, but you just shared it with like 3 or 4 other people, and then you book it for when you want?
I would love that.
Exactly. I mean, I would love that too, and I'd be happy to get rid of my car and have a self-driving car, where I just booked when I wanted to do stuff. Because I
actually costed out going to Uber. But the problem, I can't do Uber because it's too great a distance. The distances I travel are too great.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca's getting very pixelated over there in our lower.
Like I'm frozen. I don't know.
Uh-oh. What's happening in that building right now? Somebody streaming something else.
Somebody is
you might want to hang on 1 second.
Reality.
Hang on. You might want to shut down and I can bring you back up, because your visual is almost, move around. Sometimes if you move around, it'll straighten itself out.
Is that like kicking it?
Kinda. Yeah, it's not working. Well, Rebecca, if you want to shut it down, I can call you back up.
Call her back. It'll be better.
All right, I'm going to dump you, and then I'm going to call you back.
Use a different term.
Yesterday I had a Skype call, and both of us looked that way to each other. It was
really
interesting. And we couldn't tell if it was Skype, if it was the internet, who knows.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some funky stuff that can.
I may not have given this long enough. I mean, we'll see.
So speaking of wonderful leaps forward in bandwidth,
Rebecca, wait, hang on 1 second. Rebecca, I just need to talk to Rebecca. Rebecca, are you back with us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Barely, but I can't see you. I think I'm going to try to.
I just turned off video because I don't know. It seems like there's some bandwidth issues here.
Oh, your audio is fine.
Well,
without video.
All right. We'll do that, and then we'll try it out in a minute or two and see if it's getting any better.
That's fine.
Yeah. Possibly you could shut down your computer and then restart it and see if that would help. But the joys of live. Okay.
Oh, Skype.
I never use video. When I do a Skype call that isn't this or a podcast, I never turn on the video because it's just so. Or if I do, if it's somebody that I don't know and I want to just see what they look like, I'm like, let's turn on our video for 2 minutes and look at each other, and then turn it off so we can have a conversation.
Yeah. Well,
so I was gonna say that on an exciting note, last night we found out that even though AT&T has put fiber and they've been selling Uverse into Mountain View for some time, it's been very restricted. You were supposed to get cable and phone with it, and we didn't want all that stuff. And anyway, so we found out last night that Sonic is finally repping them. So Sonic is a reseller that does a very, very good job, and they also put their own fiber into some communities. They have like 3 neighborhoods in San Francisco, the Castro, I think it's the Castro, Potrero, and the Sunset and whatnot. So there are places where you can get direct sonic fiber right to your house. But AT&T's version is like down the block and then you hook into it. Anyway, we get to get their 20 meg stuff for the same price from Sonic. And we'll get it in a few days. And so hopefully my connection will be much better after that. It's not bad now.
Well,
today,
your connection is not bad.
Your connection's pretty
AT&T
good,
is
Mary.
doing
Actually, you're
something
really
with
clear
our
right now.
neighborhood or me where they just gave me 50 megabytes of extra data on my data plan. Why?
Well, this is just, it's the connect. I mean, it's not it's just the connection. But we have not been able to get fiber or fiber-ish stuff here for a long time, even though we're right near Google, and the AT&T salespeople come by, every week or two.
Why can't you get it from Google?
Google hasn't done Mountain View yet, even though we're here.
That's bizarre.
I know. I would love it if Google did Mountain View, but they didn't do it, so we couldn't do that, and we didn't want because it's $200 a month to do cable and phone and internet from AT&T. I mean, they give you this beginning special and they ramp it right up, later. And so anyway, it was very nice to hear. Sonic is wonderful. It's a wonderful company. And they rep AT&T. And so if you can get them, if you're in the Bay Area, totally recommend it. But now they're repping the fiber stuff. So it's basically for no additional cost. We don't have to do a thing except get a VDSL modem. We basically get another 15 megs per second, which is not bad. I mean,
that's awesome.
It's good. We go from 5 to 20.
Hey, Rebecca, try your video again. There she is.
Yay! Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
Better than ever.
Not pixelated.
So ladies, Francine, you rattled off a list about things that you were kind of interested in talking about. You had Twitter and you had Yahoo on your list, and Rebecca, you had LinkedIn on your list. So what about them?
Well,
who wants to go ahead, Rebecca? Since we just got you back, go ahead.
I guess winter is here because it seems like all these companies are kind of hemorrhaging. LinkedIn lost almost 30% of its stock value yesterday alone.
And today it lost 10% more, and I could never have been happier. LinkedIn sucks. And I don't understand why it's taken the stock market so long to figure that out.
LinkedIn
has known it for years.
LinkedIn has not really defended its its cause for being. I think
LinkedIn is stupid.
LinkedIn is down 43% since in the last 2 days or whatever. That is amazing.
Yes.
Because everyone has figured out that it doesn't really help people get jobs, and that it's become yet another, platform where people showcase themselves.
And speaking of the Mountain View City Council, someone needs to tell them.
I've tried.
They keep thinking that they're as viable as Google, and they're not. It's ridiculous.
They're supposed to be your business and professional directory, and everybody is on it. But all I use it for is the same thing everyone uses it for, to stalk people. If you want to stalk somebody and you don't mind paying for InMail, it's another extortion racket.
Mm-hmm. So what do you, when you do, is there anything that you've used it for that it's good for?
Yeah, when I wanted to refinance my mortgage, I used it to find the vice president of operations at my mortgage company to bitch and say that, I wanted to refinance my mortgage, and I went through the paperwork.
So you can
during the recession.
You can find a name of someone and their position, and you
you
can connect with them.
Right.
Anything else? You use LinkedIn for anything? I mean, I'm not a LinkedIn user. I think I have an account. I think people ask me to what is it called? What's the paradigm in LinkedIn? Connect. I don't usually, because I so don't use it that I think it would be deceiving that I'm connecting with them.
It's an online resume repository, and if you're not really looking for a job, and you're not really hiring anyone.
But isn't there, I mean...
I've used it for business development a lot, actually.
Business development. Okay, tell me more about that.
But it's...
just reaching out to people, companies that I would want to partner with, and then usually I go to the CEO and send an email through or connect with them, and then that allows me to send an email, and they usually, that's how I've actually gotten connected to quite a few people. I wouldn't
that goes under
their email address.
That's a subset of stalking.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, in a way, but it's like connecting.
It's networking. I don't know networking is stalking. Mary, have you used it for any, beneficial
I've done
purpose?
either of the two things. I have my own resume there. I have a call later today with a huge company that basically found me there that wants me to work on some privacy enhancing technology for them. And since I build that kind of thing, okay, great. That's how they found me. I mean, I appreciate the nature of it being a glorified resume website, and that we can communicate, we can stalk, we can email. But what I find is that when I send someone an email there, they respond about 2 weeks later, and I do the same thing because I just don't check it that often.
Of course, I don't either.
If Crunchbase had more communications tools in it, would that not be maybe a substitute?
Crunchbase doesn't really have resumes.
No, it doesn't have resumes, but it really
but you have angel lists.
Illuminates, boards and staff, and who's who, what's what. How they got funded. I mean, there's lots of information there.
Well, you know what? Yeah. There is a huge opportunity to take AngelList and Crunchbase and LinkedIn and make something with a decent interface that's actually navigable, that aggregates those things and provides a use and does not pretend to be a social network.
Mm-hmm. So LinkedIn just shouldn't be a social network. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
It shouldn't be serving articles. It shouldn't, that kind of...
No, it's got
sharing.
Articles and feeds. Who reads those?
Okay.
I don't.
So
and then
it may be a moot
thing
point
that happens on LinkedIn.
It may be a moot point if they keep losing their market share, or their stock price.
I realized a few days ago that I forgot to put on LinkedIn that I wrote for the Phoenix Business Journal, which, by the way, I've been doing for like 3 years. So I put it up there, and I got, I would say, at least 100 emails, all of which said, "Congratulations on your new role. Hope you are doing well," which obviously is a form that LinkedIn gives out, which is very much like the endorsement thing, endorse your friend for X and then hope that your friend X endorsed you, endorse them back, Right.
Mm-hmm. I think they're trying to generate some social interaction around professional stuff. And it's honestly, I think, really lame. It feels kind of spammy and gross. Lame. And then the reason I turned email off is because they send me all this crap email. So I couldn't get...
you're trying to reach
I'm sorry.
Unavailable. Please leave a message after the beep.
In the personal email, and so I had to turn the whole thing off, and now I just check periodically for personal email. I mean, it's just, they're so tone deaf to the ways people want to interact and do things. Yes, there's a few useful things there, but honestly, we don't need LinkedIn for those things. I think actually, if we all had a good template, we could just throw our resumes up on Dropbox and, with the proper SEO stuff, be findable in Google and, figure out how to message each other. And that's good enough. I mean, that's really all the value that they're providing for me.
Rebecca has pissed off the Skype guards.
Yeah.
The Skype gods.
She's trying to get back on. Well, we're trying to get her back on too.
She's quitting and we'll restart.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, stay tuned.
So,
in the meantime, Yahoo.
Yahoo.
I'm bummed. I like Yahoo, I think Yahoo has a fine. There are two businesses that really bother me, and they are Twitter and Yahoo. And the reason for that is that each one of them does what it does well for a segment of the population
What
that
does Yahoo
wants it.
do well?
Yahoo
Remind me.
Yahoo does sports well. Yahoo does stock quotes well.
Mm.
Yahoo has some sites that have big followings, not to mention Yahoo's mail. So they've got enough so
You
that
mean they deliver data, like these pieces of you're talking about data, right?
yes,
Sports and stocks. It couldn't be an easier thing to deliver.
yes, but they have a lot of people, and those people are monetizable. And I think that while Yahoo can't grow and probably can't ever be what it used to be, it's a decent business, and people ought to just shut up and quit complaining and let it run itself as long as, I mean, if Yahoo were a railroad, or something like that, and we're making money the way Yahoo is, people wouldn't say, let's sell it off and get rid of it.
Did
It's
you read
just because
about
it's a tech
did
business
you
that,
did you read about the big red book that Marissa Mayer just put in front of everyone's
no,
face
that was
at Yahoo?
last year. That wasn't just.
That was last year?
Yeah, that was last year. She wanted to raise morale. It's not, it isn't new. It isn't new. The $1 Million Red Book, that was last year or last Christmas or something like that. It wasn't.
So you're not talking about 15, you're talking about 14. Okay.
Yeah. No,
So,
I'm talking about 15. But I'm talking about, it was
last
sometime
year like a month ago, Francine, or last year like a year and a month ago?
I don't know.
Because
But
like if it was a month ago,
chat room,
that's still
when was
relevant.
the big red book? But but anyway,
I thought it was current.
no,
Well, so there is a Business Insider article about it from yesterday saying that she spent $1 million on a big red book. I'll throw this article in the chat room.
yeah,
It cost $1 million to
but
produce, and it looks like Kara Swisher reported this, and that's why it's become. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
maybe people just didn't know the cost. Maybe
Right.
that's new, but basically,
people do things to increase employee morale and retain employees all the time. I mean, if you really examined Google, you'd find out that they spend $1 million on picnics.
So if Yahoo
No,
does something really well and everybody should just shut up about it, why do we have to boost employee morale? Because they're not doing something right if people are not happy.
It isn't that they're not happy. It's that Yahoo gets this blast of negatives in the press all the time. That the people expect different things from Yahoo than what Yahoo is producing.
Mary,
even though what Yahoo is producing is okay, it's not revolutionary, but it's a business. In the same way that Twitter is a business. Twitter has something like 12 years worth of cash left. Did you know that? You would think from the way the media talked about Twitter that it was going to go out of business tomorrow. It's not. It has 300 million, decent users who really like it. And I don't understand why that's not enough.
Mary, what's your thought about Yahoo?
Well, my thought about Yahoo is I still think it's a zombie company. I thought it was really funny the other night, maybe 2-3 nights ago. One of my Facebook friends was at the movies, and they said, well, this proves it. Yahoo's definitely on the upswing. Basically, in the beginning of the movie, they had one of those ads, the ridiculous ads that they put in front of before the movie starts. And it was like Yahoo, and they kind of had some song and dance about the general business, and then they were like mail, sports, and weather. And the post in Facebook was really hilarious because it was like, well, that settles it. If you've got mail, sports, and weather covered, you are the future.
It doesn't have to be the future. Drugstores aren't the future either. There are a lot of businesses that aren't the future. I get pissed because anything in Silicon Valley that is sustainable is considered uninteresting. Yahoo is a sustainable business. It's It doesn't have to be interesting. It just has to be sustainable and make money. And it's making money.
Well, they are making money, but the thing is, they could be doing it. They could lay off a lot more people, and
she's going to do that.
Make money.
Right, she's going to do that.
And so why? They have 9,000 people. That's what, a tenth of what Google has. I mean, it's just, but they may make money, but I don't know what their earnings are. We should go and look, but
apparently they're slightly profitable. Not hugely, but slightly profitable. As long as a business is profitable.
And they spent the profits on a red book.
As long as a business is profitable, shut the fuck up. So I love Kara, but Kara, has made a career of reporting on Yahoo.
Well, is it okay to tread water?
See, I think it is. The same thing with Twitter.
I know you think it is. What do you think, Mary?
I think that it's problematic because technology and what people need and want changes over time. Expectations change. And so, I don't have the same phone that I had 10 or 15 years ago.
Right.
Yahoo is still the only thing I do at Yahoo, other than Flickr, which is a kind of a legacy account left over from, it wasn't originally Yahoo, right? But the only thing that I do at Yahoo, which I've had since, 96, is my junk email account, which yet again today I was reading a news article, and right in the middle of reading up pops this idiotic thing. We need you to register, or you can't finish the article. So I put in my junk email from Yahoo, and then I go over to Yahoo and I click the link, and then I'm able to finish reading the article, which, by the way, I'm never reading anything at that site again.
But that's a tool. Even if all Yahoo does is give you a junk email address, that's a tool.
Yeah, I know, but I could always get a different one.
Is it? I don't know. Rebecca,
I'm not saying Yahoo is irreplaceable.
Rebecca,
I'm saying just let it. Don't give it all this attention. Let it run itself out.
Rebecca,
like every other business does.
What you may have missed while you were having your Skype issues is Francine said, Yahoo does a few things well. Yahoo does sports well. Yahoo does stock quotes well.
Weather
well. Just leave it alone and let it do what it does well, and just let it be and stop complaining about it. And my question was, is it okay to tread water? Is it okay just to be this thing that you kind of refer to, and it's just a fixture in your life, but it doesn't change, it doesn't innovate, it doesn't maybe keep up with things? That's kind of the feeling I get.
Young is treading water.
Is it okay to do that? And where are you with Yahoo? Did you ever use it much, and do you use it now?
By the way, I'm not sure if my internet is actually...
Well, we're hearing you and we see you, so that's
okay,
good.
Great. So I did use Yahoo once for email. I don't anymore. I used Yahoo Messenger at one point, and I don't anymore. It's interesting that you think that Yahoo is doing well and treading water. I mean, yes, that may be true, but I think one of the bigger issues is that they've tried to innovate in such a poor way. They've just become a bloated, lazy company with too many underperforming divisions, and I don't understand what they're doing. I mean, they should focus on what is working and cut all that fat, because most of it is just unnecessary.
Right.
And I think they've started to do that. They probably haven't done enough, but I don't know.
Don't fix what ain't broke, but build on what works.
That's what I would do. But you can't do that in the middle of a shitstorm. And anytime a business, gets the attention of Silicon Valley's growth hackers, and unfortunately when they had to spin off Alibaba, they came into focus. And so now everybody, I don't know, it makes me mad. Silicon Valley makes me mad when it does things like that, because it writes people's obituaries who aren't dead, and it prevents them from focusing on what might be good. Can you imagine how much time Marissa Mayer has spent dealing with her board and dealing with, her employee morale as a result of all this focus on Yahoo is a zombie company?
Well,
Eventually,
Yahoo has a history of having issues with focusing. They've never really been able to focus, and that's been their problem. You
right.
can't even ask them what they do, and they can't even give you a clear answer. What does Yahoo do?
Well, because they were founded at a time when all you had to do to have a reason for being was be on the internet. You know what I'm saying? They were
Yes,
one of
but these
their reason for being was they were one of the earliest internet companies.
Can
You
someone
know,
can someone do me a favor? Do you have a device that you can use? Can you bring up Yahoo on mobile and tell me what you see?
let me
Is there
try.
anything?
while that's happening, I want to quote Teresa Sullivan put in the chat. Um, why sustainable companies don't work in Silicon Valley or generally. The price of a stock is fundamentally a bet on the future. Will the company's earnings from the real market of goods and services be greater in the future? If so, it's worthwhile to own a share of that company. But if they are to be less in the future, so too the company will be worth less.
Okay, Teresa,
So
that's right. But that is purely a function of the attitude of the public markets. And the thing to do in a situation like this is what Michael Dell did. If you want to rebuild it and you don't want to hear the shitstorm, you take the company private. And I think that's what should happen with Twitter. And I think it's what should happen with Yahoo.
Okay, so Rebecca, tell us what we're seeing. We've got
I mean, it's sort
Yahoo
of just like
News.
a news page. So you've got
okay.
headlines, and that's it. I mean, you've got
Yeah,
maybe
it's Yahoo News.
a mail button,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just it's just a feed of headlines,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really all I see.
Okay, so I am not a regular visitor. I'm defending Yahoo now, partly to be a devil's advocate, but partly because I want Yahoo to continue to exist. Because
I do
every once
too.
in a while, something that I really need turns out to be on there. Yesterday, I was Twitter. I have Twitter notifications at the top of my iPad, and I saw this notification that Katie Couric had done an interview with the widow of Paul Kalanithi. Paul Kalanithi was a neurosurgeon who died at the age of 37 of brain cancer. I'm sorry, of lung cancer, and had 22 months to live, in which he finished his residency, performed a lot of neurosurgery, had a baby, and wrote a book. And I just finished reading the book, which is called When Breath Becomes Air, which I read after I finished Atul Gawande's book, which is on being mortal, which are two books you all should read. But anyway, I wanted to find out, because the last thing I had read was Paul Kalanithi finishing his wife finishing the book and him dying. And sure enough, Katie Couric had an interview with his widow talking about her life and rebuilding her life and what was happening in her. Just something that I really wanted to know, because I was interested in that story.
Okay. Well, that's a function of Katie Couric, and I suppose anybody who's going to pay her salary is going to get that kind of interview. But for Yahoo, and I just looked this up, Couric's talent acquisition was one of the splashiest deals Yahoo chief executive Marissa Mayer has spearheaded since 2012 in hopes of turning around the lumbering web giant. It was also a pricey one. Couric's initial $6 million a year deal reportedly soared to $10 million this summer when she renewed her contract, and this was dated in December. So $10 million the Yahoo's spending on Katie Couric.
If she's driving traffic, okay. I mean, I don't care one way or the other. If it makes business sense, okay, whatever. But to me, it's a distraction from the bigger issues that they have, which is that, the company they don't develop anything new. They're kind of just stuck in a rut. And sure, I mean,
I
it is
don't think
easier
so.
for
I think they're a media
users
company. They have Katie Couric, they have Dennis Pogue. I mean, they've got some very interesting people.
So are they a network? Are they a
Are
network?
they a
Do they
TV
think
or a
they're a
network?
network? They've got all these people. They
are a media company, and they sell ads against those things, and they're making money doing that. And yes, I do believe that should be their focus, and some other things should go away. And I think they are.
So that should be their focus. Okay.
So if that should be their focus, then that should be their focus.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why why everybody should shut up.
Okay, well
all we do is force them to focus on all of these discussions rather than how do we, get more for our ads or drive more traffic to Katie Couric or whatever it is media companies should be concentrating on. Now, there's another question. Is Marissa Mayer the right person to run a media company? That's maybe either a yes or a no. You know what? I'm going to write.
Well, now that we've established that Yahoo is a media company, I think we've actually accomplished something.
Well, and
maybe we should tell them. How about that?
And Twitter.
Okay. I think that we've run the course of this show actually, because I don't know what time we started, but I think we're over.
2:30.
Oh God. Okay. Let's wrap this baby up. Rebecca, thanks for hanging in there with your Skype troubles.
Sorry about it.
I have a good idea, Rebecca.
It might be the Super Bowl. Something from the Super Bowl is sucking all the
bandwidth.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to do like a mobile Skype next time.
Ooh, okay. No show next week. We'll be off next week, but what?
How come?
Because I won't be in the studio.
Oh.
And if I'm not in the studio, there's no show. That's the sucky part of the studio.
Oh,
it's the way it goes.
Is it President's Day? Is that the deal? It's Valentine's Day.
Could be. All right. And then we'll return. I think we've got later on this month, Brian Solis is going to join us. And we also will be visiting.
Brian's book is awesome.
What's it called?
X.
Or
something like that.
Something like X. Something like X. We also, I believe, we're going to reconfirm this, but be getting a visit from an old friend of mine, Hollywood friend named Rose Abdu, and talk to her about maybe how technology and the movie making business and the TV making business is all intertwined, or maybe it's not intertwined.
Reality.
What's that?
Let's ask her about that's VR. Right. About VR.
Okay. I'd also like to say welcome to the podcasting world to Ray Wong and Vala Afshar, who debuted their new show called Disrupt TV today on Blab IM. Some technical difficulties that I know that they'll get ironed out, but nice to have them on board, and good luck, guys. Sometimes the technical difficulties bite us in the ass, but I think like life, we just gather the tools to deal with it. So they will always be there. The difficulties, that is. Okay, and good luck, Super Bowl. Anybody rooting for anybody? We're a non-sports centric kind of place here, but anybody have any feelings about these teams?
I'm going to go to the movies, and I suggest that you all go see the Coen Brothers movie.
Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers. I will be rooting for the Panthers because, Carolina, because I used to live in South Carolina, and they're a fairly new team to the. Oh, geez. Now I'm going to show my ignorance. Is it the American Football League or the... Rebecca's mouthing something. She's trying to help me. Go ahead, Rebecca.
NFL?
No, it could be.
I don't know.
It could be.
Football League, National. I don't even know which division they're in. There's 2 divisions, right?
Yeah. There's always 2.
AFL and the anyway.
NFL. Or
The
something like I
Eastern
don't know.
Division and the Western Division.
Okay.
Watch the commercials.
I'm gonna root for the Panthers. That's it.
Doritos
I
versus
tell you,
Budweiser.
you should go see Hail Caesar.
I think the
It's the best Coen
Budweiser
Brothers movie ever.
the Budweiser the Clydesdales, I think they were walking through the streets of San Francisco yesterday.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Clydesdales go wherever the Super Bowl goes.
Right. All right, and we're all going to go see Hail Caesar?
Definitely. It is such a good movie. It's funny as hell.
You saw it already?
Movies reminded me of it.
You saw it already?
Yeah, I saw it.
It came out today, didn't it?
Yes. I saw it at noon.
Jeez, Francine.
I love the Coen Brothers. I knew I wouldn't be able to see it over the weekend.
Okay.
I've really been known to, as a matter of fact, do you know what actual
I can't
time
keep up
I
with
went?
you, Francine.
11 a.m.
11
a.m.
In one day, she took in a 2-hour movie at the movie theater and participated by watching the Gilmore Gang and did this show. So that's a pretty
went
full
to a yoga
day right
class
there.
and wrote a blog post.
Wow. Well, you're up on me. Okay. Bye, folks. So let's get our logo together. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for the chat room. Chat room's getting there. It's getting there.
I did this show on my iPad, so I
really appreciate the participation of the chat room. It does add so much value to what we do, and we do get to look at it and interact with it, and we're just really happy that that's starting to move along a little more. All right, folks, there's Mary, and as Mary is going to do her little Google Glass dance, or Google, what's it called?
Google
Cardboard.
Google Cardboard.
Yeah.
Is it really called Google Cardboard?
Yeah,
Yes.
so there's a little Google on there, right? Oops, there we go.
That's not just the street name for it. It's really called Google Cardboard.
No, it's here's, see right there? Whoops, wait, hold on.
Google Cardboard, yeah.
Google Cardboard.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it was
I gave
at the
them to
IoT
my
conference.
grandchildren
They gave all
for
this free
Christmas.
stuff away, which was really fun, of course.
Can I just make something like that out of cardboard and fold it up?
Sure, you just need to make that thingy, and then you got to get the little eyeglass things in there. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the
That's how you
optics,
focus.
Tina. It's
And then,
the
Yeah.
and then here's the high tech part. Okay, see that rubber band right there?
Yeah.
That isn't used for anything beyond when you set the phone in sideways and then you put the little Velcro on, that the phone won't slip out. It makes just a little bit of friction.
Wow.
Keep the phone from slipping through.
That's high tech,
really
man.
Very high tech.
Very
yes.
high tech.
I
That
really
costs
like
a lot
it.
of money. It's definitely worth $1 billion in funding.
And that is
On
the
that
competitor
note,
to
we
the
are going to say
Oculus
goodbye.
Rift.
Thank you so much to Ustream. We use Ustream to record and what do we do? We record and stream live G3 and the Gilmore Gang. And thank you to New Tech and their wonderful, lovely TriCaster. We will see you all soon, and we'll say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.